Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I'm Pastor Mark Baze. Thank you for joining us. Now, sorry for the slight delay. I sat down and was ready to do the show, and lo and behold, my microphone was dead. I'm charging it right now, so we're using the backup Rode microphone here, so if you got a little bit of extra echo in the room, it's because of the different mic setup. But hey, it's nice to have options. And so I hope you had a very Merry Christmas. I know that we did, and I'm sporting a new polo my wife got me for Christmas. And so thank you all for joining us today, and I hope that you are going to have a good new year. Hopefully you'll behave yourselves, but hey, have a little bit of fun. You gotta have a little bit of fun in life. Not everything can be just purely business. But today, though, I'm going to try to make you good and angry because I'm good and angry. There's a number of reasons to be so. We're going to be talking about some fraud that's continuing to go on in Minnesota. Little Somalia, as I like to call it, or Big Somalia. Is Minnesota bigger than Somalia? Maybe so. We're also going to be talking about the 12-mile solar farm that's being put in place in Oklahoma. It's already here. And why it's terrible and horrible, and shame on everyone that's involved in making it happen, including the landowners, the Choctaw Nation, and the whoever else approved this. Okay, it's a terrible thing. I'm going to explain why, especially where they're putting it. And then let's see here. What else? We're also going to be talking about a Facebook post discussing some matters of theology. I'm ready to jump right in and dive into all of that. And, we're going to quickly be wrapping up. Tomorrow we will have a show because my son is out of school this week due to the break, so I'll be able to go live tomorrow. I will also go live Wednesday morning. No show New Year's Day, not really because I wouldn't want to do it, but I'm going to be doing family stuff, and so I won't be available. Friday, we should have a show. So I think every day but Thursday, we will be going live this week. I go live every chance I get. I really do mean that. I don't just take days off if I can help it. Now, before we get into today's show, I do want to remind you of some of the things that we have had going on here on the ministry and our church. And let's see here. I do want to remind you that yesterday we went live, 2 different live stream sessions. And the one on the right is, of course, our Deceived series, Has Christianity Become a Cult? And that was Session 4, Manipulative Leaders Part 2. We've got one more session exploring the manipulative tactics of leaders within cults and churches as well. And you, once again, continue to be really well receptive to it, getting good feedback from you. I just think that this is a series that you have seen it. You've observed it yourself. You've maybe had similar thoughts. Maybe you've made the observations. You just haven't quite compiled it into a full organized presentation, and yet here it is, right? We're doing it for you. I agree with you. The manipulation, the lies, the deceit. Maybe some of it's not malicious. I'm genuinely trying to be somewhat long-suffering with them, because I don't think everybody's intentionally being manipulative, but nonetheless, they're manipulating all the same. And we're not stopping there. We are going to get some mileage out of this. I think that we have at least another probably 5 sessions to go. So probably a 10-part, 9 or 10-part series in this thing. Still plenty to explore, plenty to discover here on that matter of Christianity, showing some cult-like sentiments. And then, session or our sermon for Sunday was just a one-off. We weren't back in Hosea. It was just a walking worthy and keeping unity, reflecting on 2025. And if you just want to kind of get a good summary of our church ministry there for the year and some areas that we can improve as individuals. I know I have a lot of room to improve as an individual in all sorts of ways, but you don't need to know about my shortcomings. Hopefully you have your own areas that you are going to be intending to improve, but I thought it was a good sermon to wrap up the year. That was going to be the last Sunday sermon of 2025, because the next time I preach will be 2026, and we will be back in Hosea. We'll be wrapping up Hosea in pretty short order. We've only got 3 chapters left, and the chapter 12 is pretty short, and so lots of fun stuff. I hope that you're enjoying the Sunday School series. I really do. I know I am. It's kind of fun to get into that discussion. I will remind you that next year, soon approaching, I don't think I have a screenshot of it. I know you want to get into the show, but there's too many things that we have going on. I cannot ignore them. I've got to talk about it. But the Bible conference, I will continue to be advertising that, promoting it, because I want you to be there in person this time. If you can't make it, I understand. You can certainly join us online as well. It will be available for you. But the 2026... Since 2026 is coming up, Spring Bible Conference, Blue Baptist Church, addressing doctrinal issues that churches avoid. Addressing doctrinal issues that churches avoid. This is going to be the Spring Bible Conference. It will be, I believe, 7 sessions like it was last year. And so we'll probably have a meal Friday night. My church is pretty great about feeding you, so possible, I'm not telling you it's a sure thing, but very possibly that there'll be a meal at the church probably on Saturday. And we do need to figure out how we're going to pay for our pizza. Probably that we'll do. Pizza or maybe something else, if you can talk me into maybe doing some catering from somewhere. What if I placed an order for, I don't know, several dozen or so of these mugs? If I placed an order for several dozen of these mugs, and it may be slightly updated with a newer logo that I'm going to be showing to you that's going to be more pleasing to Paul if he's watching today. But I'm just going to go, here you go. You can see the remote that I use to control the TV. But yeah, the Shields and Arrows mug. Last year we did t-shirts. I might be willing to do another run of t-shirts again. But what about throwing in some mugs? That way you can have your own Shields and Arrows mug. Let me know. That way I can start making plans to get some orders made on all of that. All right. Got Ken on with us. Haven't heard about this solar farm. I guess greed will darken your judgment. This is very bad. It is heartbreaking. It is devastating. It is dystopian. And we're going to go ahead and jump right into that. So here is the... honestly, I've had my head under a rock a little bit when it comes to just local things. I have yet to really figure out how to be in touch with everything going on locally. It's a very strange time, and I could probably do a whole episode on explaining or discussing why is it that it seems to be easier to know what's going on in Russia and Ukraine and Israel and Gaza than it is to know what's going on right here in your own state. But this is back from July 31st of this year, and I'm glad I didn't see it on that day because that would have ruined my birthday. Oklahoma's latest solar farm under construction. Now, I am not someone who's just against solar farms, solar panels. I mean, honestly, I kind of would like to have one at my house because backup solar is a good thing. It's silent. It's not like a noisy generator. So I'm not in principle against solar farms. What I am against is what they have done here, because this is being done by Leeward Renewable Energy in Dallas. They have announced it has commenced construction on its 12-mile solar 1 and 2 projects, a combined 152 megawatt solar facility. It did not identify the county nor the closest city, but it said it was participating in community activities in Durant. Here's where it happened. Brown, Oklahoma. Brown, Oklahoma is just north of Durant, very close to where I live, very close. If you're guessing a mile radius, guess lower than that, probably. Brown Ranch, part how Brown got its name. I even preached at that church over there several years ago, just filling in. Very pretty cattle ranch. Some of the prettiest pasture you'll ever see. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the cattle market lately, but beef is high. That's because there is a shortage of beef. thousands of acres of Brown Ranch and other cattle ranches have now been decimated, all because of this 12-mile solar farm project. Thousands of acres of cattle ranches. We need beef. It is a beef shortage. Decimated. Now solar farms. Grassland covered in solar panels. Permanent damage has been done. Permanent damage. If you went and ripped out everything, how long would it take for that land to recover from what happened? Can it ever recover from what happened? Because you destroy the topsoil. That ground will not receive proper sunlight anymore. Do we need solar farms more than we need beef? Now, some will say, well, we need electricity. Yeah, we can make electricity. We've got enough natural gas and coal. Yeah, coal. Oh, terrible, horrible, awful coal. We've got enough of that to produce all the electricity we need. As a matter of fact, you cannot rely on solar farms. Ask Texas when they had the ice storm several years ago how good relying on solar works. Oh yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't work. You know what they had to do? They had to get tapped back in. From what I understand, they had to do some emergency work to get access to natural gas electricity, coal electricity, and so on, because solar farms are unreliable. I'm not telling you that they are a completely worthless endeavor. But here's an idea. How about you go to the Badlands, go to sandhills, go to places where grass doesn't grow? Why don't you cover desert or bad rocky ground in solar farms? Why is it that they target the most coveted cattle ranches in Oklahoma? Destroyed and covered in solar panels. It is heartbreaking. You can just drive a little bit north of here and you will see what once was the prettiest pasture land of all. I used to drive when my son was cranky and he still needed, to take his naps, and sometimes he'd be fussy. I would hop in the truck and we would just drive through those ranches on dirt roads, seeing if we could see a coyote or just enjoying the beauty of it. It is gone. It is destroyed. And I feel bad for all the neighbors that live nearby on smaller ranches, because what once was beautiful land has been absolutely, there's a word I want to use. It's not really appropriate for the show. I probably shouldn't use the language, but let's just say that it's been ravaged by this LRE. But worse yet, this is not even just LRE doing it, buying up the land. There's other money coming in. The Choctaw Nation has heavily invested in this as well. The Choctaw Nation. This is your land. This is Choctaw Nation land. Well, I say that. It's owned privately by people, but it falls within the boundaries of the Choctaw Nation. I thought you cared about this land, and yet you're covering it in solar panels. Is it so you can afford to... Is it so you can afford, or have enough electricity for your casinos? Are you about to build a new building, a new resort? So let's destroy the cattle ranches? It's okay. We can import beef from China, I suppose. Why are they destroying the nicest land? Once again, I'm being very, I'm being very generous here by saying I'm not telling you that we shouldn't have any solar farms ever. What I'm saying is, why are you going after the nicest land? And that's exactly what they've done. Now, here's another thing. The Brown Ranch was owned by a family. You can probably guess their name, but I'm going to leave stuff out of it for now. But the Brown Ranch isn't the only ranch. There's other ranches as well. These are Oklahomans. They are southeastern, southern Oklahomans. They have history here. Their grandparents either purchased it or got it somehow, homesteaded it, whatever, and ranched raised beef on that land. You have a history there. Does that mean nothing? Money talks. Let's say that somebody offers you, here, I'll give you $100 for your family's land. Okay, I'll give you $100 for your family's land. Obviously, that's absurd, right? Nobody would take that deal. I'm going to offer you $100 million for your family's land. Does that change the math? Because if all of a sudden the answer is yes, you are for sale. Now, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I would sell some of my time, okay? I would go travel and teach a Bible conference for my time. I've done that before, right? But you are for sale if you're willing to do a certain thing. For some people, they are short-sighted. Now, the argument, it'll be twisted. They will say, no, this is the big picture. We've got to have electricity. Solar is the future. It's green, even though it's not. It's renewable. Okay, yeah, as long as the sun's shining. I better hope, you better hope a tornado doesn't come through. We have neighbors who have solar panels, and they got, the panels got destroyed a little while back by a storm. Now, they've since replaced them, but the point is, there will be all the sales pitches, there will be all the propaganda. No, you're doing something for Oklahoma. This is a good thing. All they had was a little bit of money waved in front of their face. And the history, the decades, maybe even over 100 years of ranching, raising cattle, raising beef is gone. Your family's legacy is gone. You know what you're going to be known for now? You're going to be known for the people who let that perfect pasture land, classic Oklahoma, the plains, the prairie, the frontier, whatever. It's destroyed. For what? Oh, I'm sure you're getting a lot of money. You're getting a good check. I bet you're going to take nice vacations for the rest of your life. You will go to Europe. You will go to the nicest resort, sandals, whatever. Okay, congratulations. That's great. For what? Short-sightedness. That's all it is. Short-sightedness. Do you value the land or not? And what's your price? Are you for sale? Are you for sale? And it's easy to be on your high horse and say, oh man, I would never be tempted. I would tell you this, it's always easy. Once again, I don't want to be that person that sits on his high horse and says, I would never be tempted. If First Baptist Durant called me, First Baptist Sherman, Texas called me, said, hey, we want you to come pastor our church. It's going to be, 6 figures, which I'm sure it probably is. Hey, come pastor our church. And let's just say hypothetically, I talked to him about it and I said, okay, but I'm a right divider. Well, now hold on now. We like your preaching style, but you're gonna have to tone it down on the right division. You don't have to be a Calvinist or you don't have to be outright evangelical, but you're gonna need to not be very upfront and forthcoming about the right division stuff. But hey, here's the money. You'll be able to have, living wages. Your wife won't have to work full time. She can work part time. Money is a powerful thing. Now, I believe, and really, I think it's a matter of just resolve. It is just resolve. I would not accept it because I'm not for sale. My theology is not for sale. My doctrine is not for sale. I will happily be at Blue for the next 30 years. And unless something major changes, they fire me or whatever, I'll be there for 30 years. And then if they do fire me, I'm just going to start a church somewhere within the next, within a 5-mile radius of here. I have no reason to leave. As a matter of fact, if I leave, what's going to happen, right? The land that we're on will get turned into a solar farm or what have you. I have no respect for somebody who is for sale in that way. It's so funny. Back, 4 years ago when, Biden was in office, they said, you need to learn how to code. We don't need plumbers, electricians, or what have you. We don't need those blue collar jobs. You don't need to weld. We need you to learn how to code. Well, you know what? AI is here and it's coding now. And somebody like Nathan White, a one-man job, can utilize AI to do incredible things like making what he's made for us. You know what we need? We need electricians. We need plumbers. We need men who know how to use their hands. Just wait. Just you wait. The short-sightedness of these people. These people have sold their ranches to make a buck. And don't give me the sob story. Well, they needed the money. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. Because there is no amount of money that I need that would get me to betray my very core principles. If it would require me to stop holding to rightly dividing the word of truth, I don't need the money. I don't need it. It's entirely how you look at it, whether you think you need it or not. And the truth is, cattle prices are great. These ranches are doing really, really well. All right? I manage a small operation. And I manage it. I don't own it. So from what I hear, the money's really good. And so when you take a calf to the sale, you make good money. There's some people right now, small cattle ranches, for the first time in their life, they're actually kind of turning a profit. They're probably sweating because they know when tax season comes, they may actually have to pay something. Because used to, cattle was just a tax write-off. So don't tell me about they need the money. It's not about that. What happened to principle? What happened to conviction? So be angry about it. You should be. Oklahomans have been betrayed. They've been betrayed by some of their very own. And shame on the Choctaw Nation, whoever else is involved in this. It's sickening. It's sickening. Let me redact. The only way that I may not be at blue in the next 30 years is because Oklahoma got so bad I had to haul, everything we have somewhere else. Get out of here. I don't plan on it. I plan on fighting, plan on standing my ground, and I hope you do as well. If you're Oklahomans listening today, you need to make a fuss about it. If you're a part of the Choctaw Nation, you better make a fuss about it, asking them why they were a part of the destruction of prime cattle ranches in Oklahoma for a solar farm. There's a whole lot worse land they could have chose. Now, that hopefully you're angry about all that, because you should be having good righteous anger. Let's move on to one other matter about fraud, deception, lies, and then we're going to get into some theology. Don't worry, you're not going to get out of theology here, okay? I promise you that. Let's go ahead and look at an article here from Breitbart, and probably some of you have already seen this. This has been breaking news. There's been a YouTuber named Nick Shirley. I don't really know who he is, but probably we're going to start finding out a lot more about him. He, I don't know if he lives in Minnesota, but regardless, he went there and was investigating some of these Somalian daycares, child care centers, and the fraud and abuse carried out by the Somalis and probably some politicians who are, Americans, or at least Americans in birth and citizenship, but they're traitors themselves. But here's the article from Breitbart. Vance, talking about the vice president, praises YouTuber Nick Shirley's report on Somali fraud in Minnesota. Far more useful journalism than 2024 Pulitzer Prize winners. And so essentially, the young man just went and investigated, knocked on the doors of these various child care places in Minnesota related to the Somalis, and found, hey, these aren't even child care centers. These are just, money laundering schemes is all it is. Vance's post came in response to a video posted on X in which he and his team, talking about Shirley, exposed Minnesota fraud. Shirley explained that he and his team uncovered over 110 million in one day. 110 million. Man. I wonder if that's how much the ranchers got paid to, have their land decimated. Here's the full 42 minutes of my crew and I exposing Minnesota fraud. This might be my most important work yet, Shirley wrote. We uncovered over 110 million in one day. Like it and share it around like wildfire. It's time to hold these corrupt politicians and fraudsters accountable. So there's a picture here of him going to some of these, once again, child care centers. Supposedly, at least, the fronts is what they are, receiving all sorts of, subsidies and government money. Actually, no, it's not government money. It is taxpayer money is what it is. And so with that, in a post on X, conservative activist Benny Johnson pointed out that Shirley had exposed over 100 million in Minnesota Somali fraud funneled through fake daycares and healthcare fronts. And so here's the big point behind this. The left is just liars. They're just liars. That's all they are. That's all they do. They just lie to you all the time. Okay? Everything they've said, Somalians have built this country. They're as American as apple pie. They're not committing fraud and abuse. They give way more than they take. It's all a bunch of lies. You know another big lie? Another huge lie. I'm telling you this right now. I'm calling it. Okay? I'm calling it. There have been all these statements about, illegal immigrants. But hey, somebody's got to pick the fruit out there in California. Somebody's got to be your roofers, whatnot. I'm just going to call it again. Once again, it's a left talking point. The idea that, hey, we need the illegal immigrants. We need these undocumented workers. They're illegal immigrants. Well, they're illegal aliens because our economy relies on them. Who's going to clean our hotels, right? They have their whole surf class, right? The Democrats have always been for slavery, guys. And nothing's changed. The point is, that's a bunch of lies too. I guarantee you, the illegal aliens are more of a burden on us than they are a benefit. I'm just calling it right now. Because the Somalis, they were claiming, hey, they're this great benefit. We need them for the sake of the economy. They built Minnesota, what have you. No, they're just taking that money. Some of them are probably using it to, buy their, alcohol and drugs or whatever. How much of that is getting sent back to Somalia and it's funding whatever drug wars and political civil wars are going on in Somalia? I mean, aren't they at war? They're always at war. There's always a civil war going on there. So with that being said, I don't have an earpiece. I was just touching my ear. Used to be very frustrated. Every time a Democrat talking head politician opens their mouth and says something about, we're a country of immigrants. Shut your mouths. Okay. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're a nation. We're a country of pioneers, frontiersmen. There were some immigrants that came, but they didn't come receiving welfare. They came with a hope that they can work hard and they can make it. They came and learned our language. They came and took on our identity. And you know how that's true? For example, here's an example. Probably my lineage, my family most of them haven't been in the United States for more than maybe 150 years. More than probably around 150 years. Probably. Just basing on my estimations. Now, there's another part of my family, though, I will say. I can trace some lineage that's further. I do think I have some distant relatives that maybe we even have some, service records from the Revolutionary War. But my point is, I think Baze is German. We're pretty sure Baze is a German name. If you look up the name Baze, you'll see a lot of German ties to it. I don't know any German dishes. I don't know any of the German language. Not really. I don't think so. No. I have no knowledge of it. There's no history of it. And I think that's just testimony that my ancestors, my great-great-great-great-grandfather, what have you, probably not even that far back. And if my mom and dad are watching, help me clarify on my genealogy, if you will. But I'm just giving a rough estimate. We have none of that. None of it. Now, some will argue Oh, but that's just because that you've been in the country, for multiple generations now. Guys, when I see children who have grandparents who speak Spanish living in their house, the kids know Spanish. I'm not telling you that's a hard and fast rule, but what I'm saying is it seems to be pretty strong, and these kids know where they're from. They know where they're from. Yeah, my family's from Mexico. My family's from somewhere in South America, what have you. If you look at some of the others, who come over from Africa, they can trace some of their lineage back a good ways. They don't seem to be just taking on American identity. They seem to be keeping their own, like the Somalians, like those from, like Mexicans and so on. I don't think they're assimilating. Just seems like simple observation to me. To a degree, Indians as well. Not necessarily Indians here in America, even though when I see what the tribes do, it makes my blood boil. But I'm talking about Indians from India. I just don't think they're assimilating. And probably your story is very similar. How many of you have somewhat of a vague idea? Yeah, we're from, somewhere from maybe the Netherlands or Sweden or Denmark or whatever, right? Like, yeah, I think we go back some. I think I also have some cousin who, some distant relative who was Scottish. I don't know. You trace all that back, right? But you lose it because your family, your bloodline, you've assimilated to America. They're not in it for America. They are still tribal. What's interesting is, you look at back in the day, there was some tension between the Italians and the Polish, or the Germans and what have you. There was some of that. There was some conflict there, even in America, but no more, because they just took on the American identity. I'm not convinced that these from the third world are doing that. And yes, Mexico counts as the third world, to specify. Tom, I'm taking it as a compliment because I would like to be like you when I grow up. Sound like me 50 years old, or 50 years ago, nothing changes. Yeah. We keep committing the same mistakes over and over again. We can't solve the third world's problems. We can't solve the world's problems. So why are we taking in the third world? All we're going to do is we're just going to turn our country into the third world. My position on immigration all the more just becomes stop it. Right? Stop it. No more immigration. Okay. Let's just cut it off. We're already in hot water. We're already in trouble. If I go to Dallas, sorry, all of you Texans, nobody's speaking English. Nobody looks American. Well, you're not supposed to say that. I'm being very unapologetic today. Okay. And here's the thing, to a degree. Looking American's not really all about your race. Yeah, granted, the majority of Americans, in history past have been from Europe, right? We sunburn easy and whatnot. But even then, you can look at someone, even if they're of a different ethnicity, and you can tell, oh, you're American. Clothes they wear, the way they talk, the way they behave, there's some American, unique, distinct behavior. So for all of the Democrats who want to clutch their pearls and cry racism or whatever, or, evangelical, weak-spined preachers, which they're Democrats too, let's just face it, all right? How many, David Platt and Francis Chan voted for Kamala Harris? 100%, probably. Anyways, I don't care what they call me. We're being unapologetic. All right, so with that, plenty of reasons to be angry today. Angry about what they have done, what Oklahomans have done to Oklahoma ranches, just selling it all for just $1. Hey, there you go. Congratulations. You made some money. Go buy you a nice vehicle. Go take you a nice vacation. Who cares about the land? Just forget about it. And then what they're doing to Minnesota. But if they're doing it in Minnesota, guys, they're doing it here too. Wherever you live, whatever state you're at, they're doing it. I don't care how red the state is. Democrat, liberal, welfare, fraud, and abuse is existing in your state right now, and that includes Oklahoma. Jake Merrick for governor. Jake would have a lot of good words to say there. Okay. Sherry, I'm going to read some positive comments because my blood's boiling. My heart rate is a little bit elevated right now, according to my Garmin watch that was given to me by my wife for my birthday. Sherry says, absolutely fascinated by the Hosea series. Well, thank you. You know, one of the things about Hosea, I wanted to just show my church, hey, here's how you study verse by verse, because not everybody comes to church on Sunday mornings, or not everybody comes to Bible study on Wednesday nights or Sunday school. And so I thought, hey, Hosea will be a good one. It will give me the opportunity to tackle the Hosea reference in Romans. And so I can just, smack around the Calvinists a little bit because they don't know how to study their Bibles. But it's turned into kind of a fascinating study because you know what? Hosea has so much relevance to the ministry of Jesus. So many of the teachings that Jesus had is echoing what Hosea said. And also you got these really interesting references to the tribulation, the last days, the Assyrian, the Antichrist, I'm convinced. So thank you, Sherry. I'm glad that you have found Hosea to be a fun and interesting study. I'm enjoying it. Tim's enjoying me being unpopular. And he says, yes, on the preachers. In Omaha, we have an evangelical megachurch that now has a social justice ministry. So dumb. There may come a day, folks, when either I do it or I convince somebody else to just infiltrate these churches. Just go in undercover. I can put on my glasses and a beanie, and I'm not going to wear skinny jeans. I'll draw the line there. But I will just act like one of these weak soy evangelical hipster Christians, and I will just infiltrate these churches, and then I will just sabotage them from the inside. I will do it. It's going to be so much fun. My goodness, make preachers manly again. All right, let's go ahead and get into some theology. You know a great place to discuss theology? That is Facebook. I was cruising Facebook the other day and saw that there was a comment or a post made, and I want to investigate the matter just a little bit and contemplate it. So here is the post on Facebook. It says this: if the strict literal interpretation of the Old Testament is true, as the Dispies argue, that's dispensationalists, that's us, then James is misquoting Amos 9:11 in Acts 15, and Matthew is misquoting Hosea 11:1 in Matthew 2. Okay. So there's the charge. Let's break it down and see what the argument is entirely. So, they are arguing that the strict literal interpretation of the Old Testament can't be right because it creates, hey, James is wrong, Matthew's wrong in their referencing to the Old Testament. Because here's the thing, if you reject dispensationalism, then you cannot take the Old Testament literally. You can't do it. You've got to allegorize the Old Testament into oblivion. You've got to just murder it, just like they did to the ranches in Oklahoma. Thank you, Leewood Energy Company, whatever you are, Choctaw Nation, whoever else, whatever Oklahoma politicians got fat rich off of it. You can tell I'm angry about it. But yeah, you can't take the Old Testament literally and not be a dispensationalist. Yeah, I think I said that correct. Dispensationalists take the Old Testament literally because we believe God communicates honestly and clearly, and others do not. So here's the charge. They're saying that James misquotes Amos in 9:11 in Acts 15. So let's go ahead and go to Biblify, and let's look at Acts 15, and let's see where James quotes Amos, and see, hey, was James wrong? Is the Old Testament not meant to be literal? Or is the goofy person who made that post wrong? So let's see here. Acts 15. And so then all the multitude kept silence and gave audience to Barnabas and Paul, declaring what miracles and wonders God had wrought among the Gentiles by them. And after they had held their peace, James answered, saying, Men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simeon hath declared how God, at the first, did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. Okay. I am curious the reference there. Simeon hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written. After this I will return and build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world. Wherefore my sentence is that we trouble not them which from among the Gentiles are turned to God. So let's... Simeon hath declared. They don't seem to be focused on that. They seem to rather be focused on this matter of Amos. Let's go ahead and go to Amos. Let's get the context of what Amos is trying to say here, and then we will determine what they got wrong here. So Amos 9:11. Amos 9:11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will raise up his ruins, and I will build as it is in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all of the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. Behold, the days, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes him that soweth seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof, and they shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. So this is just the new covenant. This is when the kingdom comes here in Amos 9:11. In Acts 15... Simeon hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. I do want to figure out... I wish I had my companion Bible right here in front of me. I want to see what that quote is. Because I think I have the approach here to resolve this matter. I just want to... This is the condensed version. Sometimes the notes are a little bit off, but let's see here. Acts 15 and verse 14. Simeon, Simon, compare 2 Peter 1:1 at the first visited. I don't think it's saying what they think it's saying. If we go to 2 Peter 1:1, if that's a good reference there. Sometimes I think Bullinger's references are good. Of course, the Companion Bible Condensed is a little bit updated or revised slightly. But 2 Peter 1:1, is that right? Or am I Yeah, they're calling it 2 Peter 1:1 here. That just says, Simon Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to them that have obtained like precious faith with us, through the righteousness of God and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. What was Peter's testimony in Acts? What is the testimony here? it could be referencing what Peter just said here. If that's Simeon being Simon Peter, that would be the speculation. How God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. If it's in context what Peter said here, men and brethren, you know how that a good while ago God made choice among us that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. And God, which knoweth the hearts, bear them witness, giving them the Holy Ghost, even as he did unto us. He put no difference between us and them, purifying their hearts by faith. Now, therefore, why tempt you God to put a yoke upon the neck of the disciples? Now all the multitude kept silence. Simeon hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. You could possibly take it that way. I do wonder, this would be a good question for someone to pose to Dr. White here, because I'd like to see how he answers it. It does say Simeon there. Now, that could very much be Simon Peter. My position is, my proposal is, there's a number of things that could mean, and I don't know that it means anything like what they're claiming it means. Simeon. I mean, it absolutely is. I mean, you got Luke 2:25, Simeon, who, was kind of the I don't know if he's a prophet, but, just and devout and, sees Jesus. There was at the church in Antioch certain prophets and teachers as Barnabas and Simeon that were called Niger and Lucius of Cyrene. Yes, it could very well be Peter, but I just want you to consider what does verse 14 say? Really consider what does it say. Simeon hath declared. Whoever Simeon is, could be Simon Peter, could be somebody else, but just hold on. How God at the first. God at the first. The first what? Could be it could be Acts 10 with Cornelius. Could be. If you consider Acts 2, you had Jews and proselytes out of every nation under heaven. They would, by all metrics, be considered Gentiles. That is biblical. And any brief study of Scripture would show that, yes, you can. The term Gentile, we've talked about this before in previous weeks. Gentile is not a word that automatically means non-Jews. It means people who lived in the nations. And there were those of Israel who lived in the nations. God did visit the Gentiles to take out them a people for his name. And that is a single thing, a singular people. I could see that. And this little addition here at the first, I don't know, is that God visited the people, the Gentiles, the nations, and called out Abraham? There's a number of ways to take that. I don't know that it's just so obvious what verse 14 is referring to there. Is it possible that when we read the following verses, we get some clarification? Now maybe I'm just completely. I'm kind of like to extend back here and just see, is there anything I'm overlooking here? Peter rose up and said unto them, Men and brethren, you know how that a good while ago God made choice among us that the Gentiles by my mouth should hear the word of the gospel and believe. He does make that reference there. God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. The problem is, at the first, as far as Acts goes, God did not visit the Gentiles, at least not in the sense that they're thinking. If their argument is, well, at the beginning God visited just all people, everybody in general. He took out a people for his name. Verse 15, And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written, After this I will return, and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down. And I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up. Verse 11 here of Amos. In that day thou stoodst on the other... that's Obadiah. Amos 9:11. In that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof, and I will build as in the days of old. Well, Amos, in context here, let's just read this here. Behold, the eyes of the Lord God are upon this sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, saving that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve. Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, which say, The evil shall not overtake nor prevent us. In that day I will raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen. Amos is all about the resurrection of Israel. Now, the restoration of Israel. Maybe I should use that terminology. The argument in the Facebook post is that, hey, this is, clearly spiritual. It's talking about the true Israel, right? And they think that Acts 15 is supporting their case. I think that the reference to Amos here says, And to this agree the words of the prophets. Verse 16, referencing Amos chapter 9:11, is all about the restoration of Israel. I think that verse 14, in order for it to agree with 16, this must also be about Israel. Because if you go back up here, look, And I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve. They will be sifted among the nations. I will call them out. So going back to Acts here, that the residue of men might seek after the Lord, and all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things. Known unto God are all his works from the beginning of the world, wherefore my sentence is that we trouble them not, which from among the Gentiles return to God. This sounds to me like James is just saying, hey, there's nothing unbiblical about this. There's nothing that's a problem, because in no way is this diminishing Israel, because the Bible itself testified that God will restore Israel after the great destruction that comes upon them, tribulation, so on. And the tabernacle of David will be rebuilt, and then the Gentiles, all people, all nations will come and look to them. They will turn to them. That they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord, that doeth this. This was always what was to happen with the coming of the kingdom, the restoration of Israel, was that the all people would turn to God. And that seems to be exactly the case that's what James is making. He's just agreeing with Amos. Hey, there's nothing wrong with the Gentiles, the nations turning to God, because the Bible said so itself. The Word of God said so itself. There's absolutely no problem with taking Amos literally and then reading Acts 15 in light of the literal interpretation of Amos. You don't have to spiritualize or allegorize Amos to make it about somehow a spiritual Israel or a spiritual kingdom or anything like that. Not at all. You create more problems by trying to allegorize it retroactively. And so I don't get their argument there. That one falls flat. Matthew is misquoting Hosea 11:1 and Matthew 2. So if we go to, I guarantee Hosea 11:1, we just covered that. So this will be easy for me to refute. Matthew 2, is it 14? When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night and departed into Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, out of Egypt I have called my son. Well, that's a direct quote from Hosea. Hosea 11:1. When Israel was a child, then I loved him and called my son out of Egypt. We've already talked about that. I've got my sermon notes on this matter here. If I go to Google Docs, that's where I keep all my notes at. Google Docs, and we go to Hosea session, I think it's Hosea session 18. Yeah, son called out of Egypt. Hosea's 11th chapter, God declared that when Israel was a child, he loved him and called his son out of Egypt. In this immediate context, this was God referring to the Exodus, and that's exactly right. It was God referring to the Exodus. Israel being a child would have referred to the early days of the people. It would not even be proper to call them a nation, since they were enslaved to Pharaoh. They were more like a clan or a tribe rather than a true nation. God loved Israel, as Exodus testified that he remembered his covenant with Abraham and his seed. Therefore, he sent Moses to bring out of Egypt. He sent Moses to bring them out of Egypt, I probably should have added, and into the promised land. There are many references that God made to Israel using the language of a father and a son. In Exodus 4:22, God declared that Israel was his son, even his firstborn. When we read the Gospels, we are given further insight into the significance of this statement. Matthew 2:15 testified that this prophecy was more than just about Israel's exodus. It was also prophetic of Joseph taking Jesus to Egypt to escape Herod's efforts to murder the Messiah. This is an interesting observation in the Bible that should not be quickly dismissed. In the immediate context of Hosea, chapter 11, verse 1 is about the nation of Israel. However, in light of further revelation, it is revealed that this is also fulfilled in the Messiah. And then I point to an example that you see in Isaiah chapter 42. There are a number of passages that actually fulfilled both in the nation of Israel as well as the promised Messiah. Isaiah chapter 42 is a well-known messianic prophecy. It speaks of the servant of God, his elect. This servant will bring forth judgment. The servant is described as not crying or lifting up. His voice will not be heard in the streets. Matthew 12:15 through 21 testified that this was fulfilled by Christ during his ministry. Yet, the Hebrew scholars and Jewish rabbis would testify that Isaiah chapter 42 is about the nation of Israel. How can they say that? If one goes to Hosea 41, 8, 9, that should be Isaiah 41, 8 through 9. It makes it clear that Israel is God's servant. Can I just correct that really quickly? Isaiah. And the truth is, Isaiah chapter 42 is about the nation and the Messiah. This is just something that they completely miss. There's a dual fulfillment. It is literally true that Israel was called out of Egypt. It is also literally true that the Messiah was called out of Egypt. They create this binary that it's either you can take the New Testament literally or you can take the Old Testament literally, but you can't take both literally. Now, granted, they won't take the New Testament literally sometimes either. They will also allegorize that to fit their theology. But the point is, that's not what you have to do. You don't have to do an either or. If you take the Old Testament literally, and then you let that be the basis for understanding the New Testament, then you can take the New Testament literally as well, and you'll realize, oh, the Messiah and the nation of Israel have prophecies that are both about them and both fulfill those prophecies. The Messiah, in a way, is kind of the ultimate fulfillment of Israel because he is obedient to the law. He does fulfill the purpose of being God's perfect servant, and so on. This is just an ignorant statement. It's made by people who are in echo chambers, who only listen to themselves. And one of the nice things about being a right divider is it's very hard to be in an echo chamber. Not saying it's impossible, but anytime you listen to a sermon on the radio, anytime you watch anything on YouTube, or you hear some politician open their mouth and talk about the Bible, you're just hearing the very common evangelical replacement covenant theology view. We hear Catholicism all the time. We hear Calvinism all the time. We are not nearly as exposed or placed in, once again, that echo chamber, just the same repeated mantras over and over again, because we're such a minority when it comes to biblical interpretation. Does that mean we're wrong? Some people would say so. I don't care about being in the minority. I care about being right. And I think there's a lot of things this world says is right that's actually wrong. Being in the minority is not a bad thing. So, just wanted to close out on some theology there, discussing that. I would like to dive into Acts 15 a little bit more and thoroughly flesh that out. But I think I made my point, though, that you can take Amos for what it says in its context and see how that fits in its context into Acts chapter 15, or rather how Acts 15 fits into the context of Amos. That may be a better way to put that. So with that, that'll conclude today's show. I will remind you that our ministry is made possible by all of you. So we have Mark Baze Ministries here. Here is our website. I need to get more articles up. I know it matters to have those available to you. We've got all of our videos, all of our sermons that we are doing right now. I do need to talk to Nathan about getting our Sunday school series up. I don't quite see it on the website. I'll have to check with Nathan on that. So with that, we are going to close out for today. Whoops, sorry, didn't mean you to have to see the messy computer screen. But that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching. This has been Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. We will be back tomorrow. We're going to explore some more, probably some politics, definitely theology. If there's something you want me to discuss, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. And if I feel like I can do some justice to it, I'll talk about it. Sometimes you send stuff to me and I just don't feel like I can do it justice, so I don't want to just throw something out there. But really appreciate all of you. Once again, Shields and Arrows, markbaseministries.org. Please support our ministry if you can, and have a great rest of your day.